Alright, let's get started. So today we're looking at Raspberry Pi cluster administration, considerations of administering a cluster. So if you're used to working in large corporate environments, you're used to working on very complex infrastructure. If not, then one very good way to get yourself ready for working in large corporate infrastructure environments is the use of a Raspberry Pi cluster to build out and replicate what you would typically see in a large corporate environment, say a bank or a leading vendor. So in this example today, we're going to look at a Raspberry Pi cluster that's been set up to run Kafka and MySQL with replication. So we have a 3-node, well, it's actually a 4-node cluster, but it's a 3-node live cluster where RPi 301, 2 and 3 are our middle tier application and database servers, and we have a management node which is 300E down the bottom. That's where we can administer the rest of the cluster from during the demonstration. So this is pretty typical of what you'd see in a large corporate environment. Here we have MySQL running on all 3 nodes. We have Kafka and Zookeeper running on all 3 nodes. They're all configured to run on in a clustered environment. So Kafka and Zookeeper is handling the brokers from Kafka. And we've got Maxwell. Maxwell is a daemon that runs on the 3 nodes that receives any changes in the MySQL database and then produces them as a topic to Kafka. And then Kafka then produces that information downstream. And the users can then connect to the topic that's been generated by the Maxwell producer. So how would we see this on sort of an application level, for example? You might have, as we have here, 3 databases that are either running standalone. In this instance here, they are 3 standalone databases. They're not running MySQL replication. They're receiving updates from a database upstream, and Kafka is the generator of the transactional transformation information that they use. So today we're going to look at administration tasks using the clsadmin utility. Helps us to manage all the nodes. We'll get some node status and we'll stop and start some resources. So in the presentation you'll see 3 screens. First screen will be a management node. That's what we're using to interact with our clusters. And then we'll see application nodes 2 and 3. These are the downstream middle tier servers running our database and applications that we just talked about. So here we are with our 3 terminal sessions. We've got node 0, the management node. We've got node 2 and node 3. We haven't got enough screen space to look at all 3 at the same time, but effectively node 2 and node 3 are identical, as well as node 1, which is identical as node 2 and 3. Effectively all nodes in the cluster, including the management node, are all configured to be members of the cluster if needed. So if node 2 had a power failure or it had a hardware issue, node 0 could actually effectively be brought online as a member of the cluster and pick up where node 2 or node 3 or node 1 that failed left off. But today we're just going to look at these particular nodes. So we CD to our cluster control bin. We're going to use the clsadmin function. The clsadmin utility is good for administering the Pi cluster. So first of all, we want to see what sort of commands we have available. So I'll use the help command and see what sort of things we can use with the help command. So here we've done a clsadmin help start, so we can see we can run clsadmin and different types of actions we can use with the start stop command. Start stop resources like MySQL replication. We can start and stop a database, a cluster database. We can start and stop Zookeeper, different components of Kafka, Maxwell or Prometheus if you're using Prometheus to monitor any JMX statistics for reporting outside the environment. Here we've got a wraparound for the whole lot where we can actually start and stop middleware, which will actually effectively run a combination of shutting down Zookeeper, Kafka, Maxwell, Prometheus all in one go. and then we can also look at the monitoring, which will set up which actually start up the Prometheus and graphite and carbon processes running. So the next command, we want to know what sort of things we can see inside our cluster. So we want to have a look at status. I'd like to know what's going on in my cluster, so I can do a cluster admin status resources. I can look at the configuration of the load balancer if it's running. I can look at any processes that are running. So first of all, let's just have a look at see what's running on the actual status, what's actually running on the node. So we'll run a status command, and we're going to run it for rpi30. Well, actually, we'll run it without any nodes. When you run it with no nodes, it'll run effectively against all nodes. So we're going to do a status resources and just get the current status of all resources running on a node. There will be quite a few up and some down, so we'll see what comes back. Okay, so at the moment we can see that we are running on 3 nodes. And the 3 nodes that we're running on, the first node we have Zookeeper running, Kafka, server 1 and 2. The Kafka manager is offline, the Kafka injector for MySQL is offline, so is the JSON. We can see that Maxwell is running and MySQL is running as well. When we go down the other nodes, we can see there's a few other things that are running as well. Some are offline. You can see Kafka server 2 is running offline on node 2. And then finally on node 3, we can see things that are running there. This is really good because you can see the actual PID, or the local process ID of those processes. So if you want to kill stuff, you can quickly just find out what's running what and just kill it. You can also see what ports are active, so if you have any issues with any communication layer, you can look at the ports. So let's go ahead and just nail this down a little bit. We want to keep it a little bit easier to read, so we'll go over to node 2, and we're going to run the same command, but we're going to put the node name at the end of it just to reduce the list and see what comes back. So the cluster admin command is designed to be run from all nodes in the cluster. You can administer any node in the cluster from any node in the cluster. So long as that node is registered with the cluster, you can effectively run that node. So here we can see on the node 2 that services that are running on node 2 are effectively a subset of what's been reported here on node 1, on the management node. And if we do the same command as well on node 3, we can also see what's running on node 3. So I'll just do that now. Let's get our screen a little bit bigger. And we'll get some nodes coming back. So if we run resize, make it look bigger, get the output to look a little bit cleaner, and there we go, we can see what's running. Now that we've got our status, pretty much I want to shut stuff down. So we look at our clsadmin, and we want to stop resource. And say for instance we want to stop Maxwell, we can stop Maxwell. We can do it cluster wide, or we can do it on a local node. So let's have a look at shutting it down on rpi302e. So we shut it down there. So if we come back over here on node 2, we will shortly see that Maxwell is, well, it already is offline, so it'll report it as offline. So that probably wasn't a good example of something to do. So if we change this now and we change it to start instead of stop, so if we want to start Maxwell on node 2, we just run the start command, and it's giving us a log output file. And we just rerun our status command, and we can see that Maxwell will now be running online. And there it is, Maxwell is alive and running on node 2. There's the PID that it's running against. So if you wanted to kill that, we could effectively kill that. So if we do the sudo kill -9 and then the PID, and then we run our status command again, we should be able to find that Maxwell is in fact offline and it's no longer running. One of the good things about this is you can use it on any node and it doesn't really matter where you are. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy. I'm happy with that. Now I want to kill the middleware, or shut down the middleware applications. So anything that's not a database, I want to shut it down. So if I want to do a stop, and then I can do the middleware, I can run it on one node. So if you run it on RPi 303E, we can shut down the middleware on node 3. So you can see it's running through and shutting down everything in the right sequence, and the injector's still running online, so that's not really part of our middleware. That's a separate consumer application. So if I wanted to stop that resource, I could stop the resource by running inject.json by 302E, and running on 3, and shut that down. So now if we come over to node 3, we do a status, we'll notice that everything should be shut down except for the MySQL database on that node. So there you go, everything's offline now on that node, and it's looking like it's ready to be shut down. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down all the middleware on all the nodes. So I'll just execute the stop middleware. There we go. So it's going through and shutting down all nodes, all middleware, all non-database. And once it's finished, we should be able to, we'll get a report back telling us what's online, what's offline. So you can see the injectors are still running, so they're not registered as part of the middleware, so they are manual shutdown. Later we want to register them, we can just register them as a member of the middleware, and it'll shut them down with the middleware shutdown command. Lastly, I want to shut down the database tier. So if I wanted to stop cluster database, we can stop cluster database. And if I wanted to run it individually, I could run stop resource MySQL database. And I can do it on all nodes, or I can do it on one node, just depends. Here I'm doing it on all 3 nodes. Now when you run the status command on the individual nodes, you will notice that there's a MySQL PID still registered for each node. That just means that MySQL is the actual MySQL D process is running. The database is actually being shut down with the shutdown command correctly. Okay, so now I'm ready to do some restarts. So I want to have a look at doing a restart. So clsadmin, and let's go and look at the help and help node. So it's a node operation, and there's actually helps you get the right syntax. So we want to do a help admin. So the admin command, we can administer the cluster, we can free some memory. So if you're running out of memory issues, particularly if there's Java's taking up too much memory in your Pi, you can admin, and then you can then do cluster and then free memory, and that'll go through and tell us what memory's been used, and it'll do a purge on the buffers to try and get back some of the memory that we're using. Here we can see the memory and the swap sizes being run, and how we can actually, how much we can reclaim. So now we've done that, we want to do help admin, and we want to do a node shutdown or restart. So if we go and do our admin, and we go admin node, and then we do restart. You can effectively restart the whole cluster, or we can do them one at a time. So you notice that our sessions are being killed over here. Now the nodes are all physically shutting down and restarting, and they'll take maybe 30 seconds to come back up. So that's a bit of a quick introduction to the clsadmin utility and administering Pi clusters.